Welcome to the Ed Leaders Edge podcast, where we interview innovators and thought leaders in the field of education who are helping students thrive. I'm your host, Ed Madison. I'm a professor and researcher at the University of Oregon, an educational consultant, and serve as executive director of the Journalistic Learning Initiative, a nonprofit organization that empowers elementary, middle, and high school students to discover their voice, improve academic outcomes, and become self-directed learners through project-based storytelling. Welcome to our program. Well, welcome back to the podcast. Megan Von Fossen is the superintendent of the Sto-Rox School District in Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, which is a small school district in the Appalachian area. Many people don't think of where you're located as being part of Appalachia, but we'll talk about that. And I noted that your middle school football team finished undefeated. Congratulations.
It was a wonderful season for the boys. It was very exciting.
Well, welcome to the podcast. You and I had talked briefly before, and I know that the district that you preside over has many challenges, and I wanted to just chat about some of that. You said that that's pretty much considered at risk. Many of the community youth there.
Most definitely. Unfortunately, we do have the identification by the Federal Bureau of Investigation as the most dangerous area in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania because of the crime rate and the amount of shootings. But fast forward to what we do each and every day in our schools, this is a really safe place for kids. We have incredible safety and security protocols in place. Although it's fair to say that, if there's issues in the community with kids, that tends to transfer into the school, but we have a lot of services for kids here in the district that are not typically available in public schools.
Mm-hmm. I noticed that there was a Stop Hatred workshop or something that students are attending, and just our. We're at a time now where people seem to feel they have license to say and do things that we just never thought was acceptable years ago, and so I'm curious. Is that translated into varying rules about just use of phones and social media and all those things around campus? Or
So 2 years ago, the high school principal was brave enough to ban cell phones 7 to 12. And so every day, every child turns in their cell phone when they walk in the door to a classroom teacher. They then go through metal detector and bag checks so that when the kids are in our buildings for the 6.5 hours a day, they do not have their cell phones. Kids do not like it. The first year, they sought me out because my office is in the 7 to 12 building, and they wanted to write petitions and get signatures. So it was a great activity for them to advocate, but they did not win. And we have held tight, and parents have really appreciated that. They really have applauded not having the cell phones. And quite frankly, after a while, the kids realized the moaning and groaning wasn't going to get them anywhere. And they kind of figured out that they might as well not fight it. And the days go much smoother without the cell phones, quite frankly. It's not a battle we have to fight during the day.
Mm-hmm. Now, is there I may have mistaken this. Is there a dress code?
Yes, there is. Yes.
Okay.
K to 12, there is a dress code, and it is a strict dress code. 3 different color pants, collared shirts, very specific colors for the shirts, and we're not allowing hoodies, and you can't bring your blankets in, and you can't wear your baggy jeans. So yeah, very, very strict dress code this year. And it's worked well, K to 6, 7 to 12. It's been initially it was great, but the struggle bus is real for our educators in the 7 to 12 building. They feel like that's a constant battle. And I think it'll get better. They're really for example, kids are allowed to wear costumes tomorrow. So if 5 days in a row, if they were dressed appropriately and did what they needed to do, they get to wear costumes to school tomorrow. And actually president and vice president of the student council came up with that competition. And so they just named all the kids that over the overhead announcements of who can wear costumes tomorrow. So
Yeah, and
it's
we
a
should note that
motivator
we're
for kids.
recording this the day before Halloween, so that's that's the reason for the occasion. What do you notice in terms of the impact that clothing can have? I mean, there's so many different levels in terms of kids, feeling inadequate because they can't afford certain pairs of shoes, or even just sometimes certain bits of clothing can even lead to inciting, just bad behavior at the worst sort, like fighting over shoes and things like that. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
So have versus have nots. And so, or where some of those, very expensive tennis shoes were coming from. Now we've leveled the playing field, right? And for those kids that didn't have the money, or the families that didn't have the money to get the uniforms, we certainly helped facilitate them getting the pants for the dress code and the pants for the shirt. So um, kids can't say they don't have it. In fact, one of our principals, we purchased tons and tons of clothing as well as a school district, plus lots of donations. So it's no one can say they don't have what it is that they need for
yeah,
certain.
yeah, yeah. I'm gonna guess, and probably I'm sure that you don't believe that kids have deficits. We all don't choose to be born in a particular place, to a particular family with particular set of means and status, and yet there are disparities that can lead to problems with schooling, whether or not it's just not having parents who are able to model or read to their kids at night, all those types of things. How do you look to help kids that are coming into your kindergarten, first grade, be better prepared for the more challenging curriculum that they're going to encounter later? Let's step away from our conversation for a moment for me to tell you about the Journalistic Learning Initiative's innovative educational tools and services. Of special note is JLI's Comfort Corner initiative, a video library featuring near-peer role models sharing about their mental health journeys. This innovative resource destigmatizes mental health challenges, provides a gateway to seeking professional help, and supports your students in realizing they're not alone. If you're looking to make the best decision for your teaching staff and students about AI adoption, improving student engagement, strengthening writing skills, promoting social media mindfulness, or enhancing college and career readiness, please take a moment to visit our website at journalisticlearning.org. Our team of University of Oregon researchers offer customized AI tools, instructional materials, professional development, and consulting. Research confirms that students with journalistic learning experience outperform their peers on numerous key indicators for college and career readiness. At the heart of our work is empowering learners to become effective communicators. If you think about it, effective communication is critical in every human interaction, whether it's writing an essay for a grade or being interviewed to secure employment. Since 2015, JLI has benefited nearly 20,000 students and served schools in 15 states and the District of Columbia. I invite you to schedule an appointment to explore how JLI can improve your students' learning outcomes. Now back to our program.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So I think 96% of our families live below the poverty line. And this school district 33 months ago had the lowest fund balance. In fact, we were $6.8 million in the red. And 33 months later, we're 12 million to the good, and we have more supports and services than the school district has had in 20 years. When I think about ensuring that kids have access to rigorous, relevant instruction, we've really thought about core instruction first. And so when I think about my kids coming into kindergarten, you know, every mom and dad, no matter, every place that I've worked, will tell you they love their babies. So whether you have money or you don't have money, it's the same theme. They want their kids to be successful, and they love their kids, and they want supports. And so we ensure that, for example, we use the Early Bird Literacy app, which was developed at Harvard by Nadine Gabb. And so that right out of the gate tells the teachers exactly where every single student is in acquiring their reading skills. And it has parent reports that we can provide to parents. And Early Bird has actually like a literacy university for parents that is free for them. And then of course, we actually, our zip code is approved for Dolly Parton's book giveaways. So we provide lots and lots of resources for our family. And then we have lots of Title I nights where it might be a math night. And how do you help your child with math? And how do you help your child with early literacy skills? So we really strive to ensure that we are meeting the parents' needs just like we're meeting kids' needs.
Mhm. It says so much about your character that you are choosing to work in a place that's challenging. You could take it easier and be in another environment. And I think about the teachers, unfortunately, that we're losing across the country who are just burned out. And I guess my question is, has to do with just the general public perception about public education, which is, I think, could fairly say is fairly negative. And how do we shift that? Because as I've been saying to some other superintendents in urban communities, they're losing attendance, for with the charter movement and everything else, which is affecting the budget, which means that the vast majority of the students who rely on public education, uh, it's harder to serve those students. Any thoughts about just how do we? It's a big question.
I think that, as I've made my rounds today talking with staff about various things, I'm able to have really good conversations with teachers. Like the health teacher is right across from me, and the art teacher, and I can tell you the art teachers. One of her kids goes to Robert Morris and Bowles, and I can tell you my health teacher and what she's passionate about. And she forgot to buy a chicken because she was going to debone it for the kids today. I guess the point that I'm making is it's about those relationships with those staff members and trying to elevate their voice, which is much harder than you might imagine, and in authentic ways. I feel like I have those relationships 7 to 12 because my office is right here across the hall from teachers, where it's not as authentic K to 6 because those buildings are up on the hill. But when it boils down to it, um, it is about kids and about helping those staff members find their why, but also finding building those relationships, because I think when you have those relationships, it's harder to brush things off. And I think that kids work harder for teachers they like, and I think teachers work harder for administrators they like.
Hmm.
And I think that we've got to find ways to authentically also connect with families, because I think it's easy to bash people on social media and behind their backs when they don't know their names and their faces.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah. Was there a teacher that inspired you that you sort of point to, and when you think about just the path that you chose?
Yeah, two actually history teachers, John Molnar and John Miner. And I had them both in high school. And They knew me. They knew my name. They knew my story. They knew what I loved. They knew um, how to joke with me. They knew what they really cared about who I was as a student. And it wasn't about the content. I don't know, and I'd hate to tell them this, that I can remember much from their courses, but I can remember much about how they presented their courses. And I remember being a foreign exchange student the year after high school, and one of those history teachers writing me letters and being my biggest cheerleader. And again, look, it goes back to relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Let me ask you about AI. So I've sort of been asking people about that. What are you observing? What are you thinking about it? And
So this school year, one of our presenters right at the beginning of the school year, one of our professional learning sessions was about 2.5 hours on how do we make it easier for teachers to plan and adding rigor and relevance to lesson plans. So, of course, for Pennsylvania, we use the Danielson framework. And one of the things that teachers really struggle with is balancing the grading and giving meaningful feedback to kids, but then having, rigorous, relevant lessons and making sure everything's where it needs to be. And we had a wonderful presenter from the Allegheny Intermediate Unit, Brian Stanford, who came in and just ripped the Band-Aid off and said, listen, I can help you do less work, which was very helpful to the staff right out of the gate. They didn't find it to be painful. They all had their laptops and they tinkered and toyed with things, and lesson planning became less demanding. I think when, just like for kids, if you find where you can actually use something and it makes your life better, are interestingly enough, I've heard a lot of superintendents, again, from well-funded school district or better funded school districts, like worry about, plagiarism. I'm like, oh no, I'm excited when a kid turns in an assignment. Like, I'm not real concerned that you might. I think that one of the things I tell grad students all the time, that if you can Google the answer, the question wasn't a good question, right? And so when I think about AI, this is my kids' reality, right? They need to be able to harness that. And if we're not designing our instruction and we're not designing our instruction or our assignments so that kids have to really think, then that's us. That's the ownership of the designer. That's on us as the teachers. So I don't know that I have the same concerns of plagiarism that my colleagues do across the country. Again, I want kids to get to class and I want them to be meaningfully engaged. And if that's using AI technology, yes, okay. I think there's I think teachers have to have set rigorous, relevant goals, but I don't think teachers should set the pathways, right? I think that there should be 15 different pathways for kids to get to a goal because we all don't travel the same road, but the goal is the goal.
yeah. Thank you so much, Megan Von Fossen. Thank you. How do people find your school district and you on the internet or on the web?
So it's Sto-Rox School District. We're located here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It's actually in McKees Rocks, Pennsylvania, right across from the city. So yeah, you can look us up on the web and my information is there. So thanks for having me today.
All right. Thank you so much.
Take care.
The Ed Leader's Edge podcast is produced by the Journalistic Learning Initiative. Please check out our latest books, Language Arts in Action from W.W. Norton Publishing, and Raising Empowered Learners from Rauman and Littlefield. For more information about our work, please visit journalisticlearning.org or edleaderedge.org. Thanks for listening.